Hey everyone, it's Alice and welcome to another day of Bookmas. Today I'm going to be sharing all of the series that I finished or caught up with throughout 2021. So I did this as two separate videos at the start of Bookmas 2020, I'll link them both down below, and I did a video about all of the series I was currently caught up on and a video about all of the series I had ever finished in my entire life. There's no point in doing that video again because I've obviously already finished those series in my life, so today I'm just sharing the ones that I have done in the last 12 months, but because I haven't caught up or finished that many, I thought I would combine them into the one video for you today. So we will start off with the series that I have caught up on this year because there aren't many of them. The first of which is Camelot Rising, I think the series is called, by Kirsten White. So this starts off with the Guinevere Deception and the second book is the Camelot Betrayal. The third book actually comes out tomorrow. So I'm only caught up until that is released and then I will be finishing this series off. But if I'm completely honest, I hate these books and I don't know why I keep reading them. Not like strongly hate, I just haven't particularly enjoyed either of them. But for some reason I picked the second one up and I'll finish off the series just to see where it's going. A lot of people love this, it's just not for me. The next series I've caught up in 2021 was the A Pinch of Magic series by Michelle Harrison. I read A Tangle of Spells when it was released in either January or February and I absolutely loved it. It was my first 5-star of the year. It was supposed to be the last book in the series, but there is a fourth book called A Storm of Sisters being released in February or January, I can't remember, 2022. So not only is that one of my most anticipated books of next year, but it also means that I'm only caught up on this series. I haven't actually finished it and hopefully there will be more installments because I'd love to join the Widdowson sisters on a few more adventures yet. The next series that I caught up on this year was Nevermore by Jessica Townsend because I finally read Hollowpox. The fourth book in the series, which is Silverborn, is coming out in October. Super duper anticipating this, so I'm really excited to get to it. I normally wait until these are in the library and read them in paperback, so it's going to probably be another year until I can even read it, which is frustrating because I really want to read it straight away. I might just end up sucking it up and buying the hardcovers of these because I don't want to buy the fourth one and then not have the others, and some of the early hardcovers in this series are quite expensive because they're out of print. But I might just suck it up and get them because this is a series that I really do love and I would like to share with the babies when they're older too. The last series that I caught up on this year was the Stag series by M.A. Bennett because I read Tigers when that was released. Similar to Camelot Rising, I didn't actually particularly enjoy any of these books yet. Stags was okay. Dogs was terrible. Foxes was the best in the series so far and Tigers was pretty terrible again. Somebody's told me that there's going to be 7 of these, I think. Seeing as it's just basically the same story over and over again, it's very formulaic and they could easily write 7 of these. But I'm going to keep reading them because I don't know what it is about them, but even though I don't particularly enjoy them, I can read them so fast. So now we'll move on to the series that I finished in 2021, of which there are 14. So the first series I finished in 2021 was the Mossbelly McPherson series by Alex Gardner. This is a middle grade series following a boy called Roger and his friend the dwarf Mossbelly McPherson and the adventures that they go on. I was hoping that there were going to be more of these released, so I'm hoping I am only caught up on it, but there haven't been any more announced yet, so I thought I might as well put it in the finished section. But I read the second one in January and it was a lot of fun. I also caught up on the D.I. Ray Drake series by Mark Hill. Similarly, I hope that there do end up being more of these books because Ray Drake is a really interesting detective and It Was Her was the second one. The first one was called The 2 O'Clock Boy, but it also had another name. But it was one of the best detective books that I've read in a very, very long time. The second one was a bit more formulaic and I could see where it was going, but I did still enjoy it. I just hope that Mark Hill eventually writes more of these books because I would like to read more from Ray Drake. The next series I finished in 2021 was TheIlluminae Files by J. Kristoff and Amy Kaufman. We actually read Gemina, Obsidio and Memento, the little short story. And with each of these books I ended up enjoying the series less, which is probably one of the reasons that I don't really read all of the series that I own. I just kind of start them, really enjoy them, and then get too scared to carry on. Because Illuminae was a 5-star, Gemina I think was either a 4 or 5-star, and then I didn't really like the way that this ended. I did do a full series wrap-up, rant, catch-up, review thing, so I'll link that if you'd like to hear more of my in-depth spoilery thoughts on these ones, but sadly not a new favourite series for me. I also finished the Hate U Give series by Angie Thomas because I read the prequel, which is Concrete Rose. Didn't love Concrete Rose as much as I loved The Hate U Give, but The Hate U Give is one of those novels that's so impactful that I don't think anything else that Angie Thomas ever writes will even touch it. And I'm saying that as somebody who really, really loved On the Come Up. But I'm glad that I actually read Concrete Rose the year that it was released, because that was one of my most anticipated reads of 2021. I've already revisited my most anticipated reads and whether I've read them or not in a previous Bookmas video, so I'll also link that. But yes, glad I managed to catch up on this series and finish it. And hopefully Angie Thomas will write more in this world. Hopefully Angie Thomas just writes more. I just need more of her books. The next series I finished was the Folk of the Air series by Holly Black, because I read the short story collection How the King of Elfhame Learned to Hate Stories. I hated this book, which is unsurprising because I didn't particularly enjoy the Folk of the Air series. Crawl Prince, 5 stars, dropped it down to 4 on a reread, didn't like the second or the third. And I decided to read the short story collection because most of them are from Carden's perspective, and I found that interesting. And also I had quite a lot of teeth removed, and it was an audiobook that was on the library that wasn't too long, so Sean and I listened to that while I was unable to read to us, and it just feels quite repetitive. Some of the short stories would have been better interspliced in The Queen of Nothing. So if that book had been longer and had those short stories like interwoven into it, I think it would have worked nicer. But at least I finished the series. I also finished the Ready Player One duology by Ernest Cline, which, guess what? I hated this. This didn't need to be written. It was an unnecessary sequel. It was pretty much a cash grab. So was How the King of Elfhame Learned to Hate Stories, if I'm honest, but let's be honest, everybody's going to hate me for saying that. But this book was just a massive cash grab, didn't need to be written, and it has kind of lessened my feelings about the first one, which is a shame because I loved the first one with my whole heart. But at least it has beautiful blue sprayed edges, so it still looks pretty on the shelf, even if it's not pretty on the inside. The next series that I caught up on, finished, read in its entirety was the Matched series by Ali Condé. I've had this series for at least 10 years and I hadn't started any of them, so I just decided I was going to read them all, and they were awful. Absolutely awful. I've done a series rant review on this one as well, and boy howdy do I get quite vexed about it, because it's such a great concept in, like, there's a society and they like match people up with their soulmates, but this girl, when she looks at her soulmate's file, she sees somebody else there. So she's like, does this mean like they've made a mistake? Has this been put on there by accident, or is he actually my soulmate? And it causes her all of this kind of conflict internally. Obviously that means there's a ginormous love triangle, which is bleh. But the world is so fascinating, and I wish there'd been more focus on the world compared to the relationships, because the world was really interesting. But again, a trilogy that I read in its entirety in 1 year. That's unheard of for me. The next series that I finished in 2021 was the Cassidy Blake series by Victoria Schwab, and guess what? Didn't like this series ender either. I thought it was very lazy. It was the only book in the Cassidy Blake series that I didn't give 5 stars, and that makes me sad. I also read the Once and Future duology by A.R. Capetta and Corey McCarthy. I read this in its entirety this year, and again, hated it. First book, pretty promising. Second book, absolute ball ache to get through. Beautiful Illumicrate edition that I'm probably going to end up unhauling because I just have no desire to reread it. But it's a King Arthur retelling, and I'm starting to rapidly learn that I don't enjoy King Arthur retellings, so why I keep reading them, whoever knows. Finally, a series that I enjoyed the ending to, which was The Valentines by Holly Schmail. Love Me Not came out this year, last book in the series, and it follows my favourite of the Valentines sisters. I wish that there were more books in this series because these honestly hit so hard. It's just such a clever series because the first book feels like it's a funny, quirky contemporary, and it feels very shallow, and then it takes a twist and it gets quite dark, and the rest of the series is exactly the same. It's got like this shiny, bright, happy persona on the surface, but then underneath it really does tackle some difficult topics, and I think Holly Schmail is an a brilliant author for being able to combine those two together in such an effective way. I would happily reread this whole series tomorrow because I really did love them. I also loved The Stranger the Dreamer duology by Laini Taylor, of which I reread Stranger the Dreamer for the first time this year, and I also finally read Muse of Nightmares, and I cried. I cried so hard during both of these books, and I was reading them out to Sean and I was getting choked up and I just had to keep stopping to cry because I just love this world and these characters and this writing so much. Honestly, one of my favourite series of all time, and it will remain that way forever. Just write more, please, Laini Taylor. I really need to read Daughter of Smoke and Bone, because if that hits me the way that this did, it's going to be a good time. Back to series that disappointed me, and we've got The Fandom by Anna Day. I read The Fandom before Sophia was born. I was very, very pregnant. So 4 years ago, 4.5 years ago. And I kind of enjoyed it. It's like a world where teenagers get sucked into their favourite story. They're like at Comic-Con and the energies come together and it like makes the world come real. So they like slide into their story. And yeah, it was an interesting concept and I quite enjoyed the first one, but the second one was completely unnecessary, and it was also only about 200 pages, and it suddenly split into a dual perspective, but neither of the characters had individual voices, and so much so that the author themselves used the wrong names, like referred to the character speaking to the other character in their perspective. So say, for example, Alyce was talking to Violet, it would say like, said Alyce, and then I said, but actually it was Alyce that was speaking. And if even the author can't tell which perspective they're writing, they're too similar. Not the book for me. My light has died. It is 1 in the morning and I'm too tired to get another light, so I'm sorry that we're going to have a bit of an orange tint for the rest of the video, but let's go with it. We're nearly there. The next series that I finished was the Kill Stub series by Sophie Green, and all of these books have been 3 stars for me. They're good, but they're just not as great as I wanted them to be. I didn't love them as much as I'd expected to, and I think I got them hyped up too much in my head. Carl Wentford's illustrations are stunningly gorgeous, as always, but the ghost stories just aren't that spooky, and I found myself just really wanting more from this series that I never got. They felt a bit rushed, which was a shame. And then last but not least, I finished the A Good Girl's Guide to Murder series this year with the release of As Good as Dead, which is the 3rd book. And guess what? It's happening. Yeah, I didn't like this series ender either. Done a rant review on this one already. I'll link it. I don't know how this is this thick and still feels like it adds nothing to the series. Should have been 2 books. Should have been split. Should have been expanded. One of my viewers actually made a really good point that if it had been split, it could have been stretched out a bit more and things could have felt a bit more natural, and there might have been more time for some of the things that were missed to actually get put in, because there are a lot of little nods towards things that never get fully explored, and it feels like an oversight rather than purposefully leaving the world open. It's frustrating as hell. I love the first book in this series. I really enjoyed the second book in the series as well. I've read the second book a couple times because of the way book prize. It was shortlisted earlier this year, but this one, if this is shortlisted, it's going to be a struggle to get through it a second time, and I'm wondering whether this might be the one that kind of started off the reading slump, because I had such high hopes for this one. I only ended up giving it 3 stars. I didn't hate it, but compared to the 5 stars of the first one, it's a lot lower. But this is like, other than The House in the Cerulean Sea, which has taken Sean and I 5 weeks to read, this was the last book we read together, and we finished it at the beginning of October. Yeah, this one's probably responsible for the reading slump, isn't it? But it's fine. We will eventually get over it. And so those are the 14 series that I managed to finish this year, which means in my life I've now finished 71 series. I'm gonna say it. I'm going to regret saying it. I want to get to 100 next year. So I want to finish 29 series in 2022. That's going to be one of my goals at the end of the month. I've only just thought of it now, but it is. And that's probably a mistake, because that's not only just over a quarter of the amount of books that we've managed to read this year in its entirety. Sorry, the sleepiness is catching up now. But also, like, we're still in the middle of a reading slump, so the likelihood of us reading that many books in 2022 in general is not high. So being like, I'm going to finish 29 series next year is a big talk. But we're going to try it. We're going to do what we can. And we're going to try and get to 100 series completed in my life, which would be really, really cool, but is practically impossible. Thank you so much for watching. If you like this video, please give it a like, and if you'd like to subscribe, I'd be super duper grateful. Please leave your thoughts on any of these series down below. If you think I'm being too harsh on ones that you loved, or if you also didn't like them, or if you think I'm being too nice about the series that I loved and you hated them, just hit me up, let's have a discussion. We're posting new videos every single day in December because it's Bookmas, so come back tomorrow for another video that I have no idea what it's going to be and I have not filmed yet. We are definitely leaving ourselves short for time this year, but we are going to get there. Thank you for your support and thank you for watching. Bye! Threw my phone on the floor. Ace. Now it's bedtime.